By Ms. Ford. Go ahead, Ms. Willie.
Okay. Just to bring everyone sort of up to date on where this is a pilot program specific to the Big Island County Council, and it was for the election periods of the 2010 election, 2012, and 2014. Basically, there's legislation before the state that would amend the current laws that's applied. As you may know, quite a few of us, I think it's 6 of us on this council, used public funding in our elections. So it's certainly playing a significant role here on this on our council. The key things that are different, or the changes in the state legislation, are that it would limit the number of the current bill as it's written right now in its current draft, would limit the number of candidates eligible to the first 15 that qualify. And the most important change is that, the most important change is it would change the formula for determining how much money each candidate gets. Currently, it's based on the average amount for the winning candidate spent in the last 2 elections in the particular district. So there was one district that would get $40,000, another district would get $1,000, totally inequitable. What this legislation does is to address that inequality so that changing the formula so that it would be based, the amount of money received by all candidates applying for public funding would receive the same amount, and that formula would be based on the average amount spent for the winning candidates in all districts. Okay? So every district would get, now I calculated it would, what it appears from what I'm finding here is that this year a candidate would qualify for the primary election a little over 13,000, and for the general election a little over 3,000. So this bill is coming up for vote today in the state House. It's passed in the Senate, and it's coming up today 4-9. And let me just mention, we all talk about when measures are deferred and that's sort of dead. This bill was dead 4 days ago. And so this bill was, on 3/27, the Finance Committee killed this bill. There was enough opposition. Whatever happened, it was back. And on 4/2, bill scheduled for decision making. So things can change. As we watch this going on, I know. So that's pretty much it. And the one thing, let me just say, in terms of what I drafted, was basically supporting this. I did put in that, if I was drafting it, that allowing candidates to use the option of using public funds for the primary, but not necessarily for the general election, to both, that you had public funds so that you didn't have to go around and kowtow to get into the election, but that once you were in there and had your positions, that people would be more supporting your positions and not where you're working on it. And so that if you had a candidate that in your opposition and you're looking at them and it's is it realistic to go with the public funding for the general election? But the way the bill is written is that when you buy into it, you buy into it for both the primary and general. And I'm not sure that what my proposal made sense, but I wanted that issue to be debated. Okay, so that's pretty much it, and I ask for your support. So I doubt that I would have run if it hadn't been for this, and so I yield to any other comments and ask for your support. I think it's important we're the ones that are the pilot project, and that we be supportive of making this formula and this program more fair and more just. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Willie. Ms. Poindexter?
I agree that if it's a, excuse me, if it's done fairly, then I would support it because, like one of the testifiers said that, in the Hamakua district, the district that he ran and I ran in, it was like $1,200. So I had to work hard, really work hard and get out there and ask for interviews and endorsements so I could raise my funds. And the way the calculation was prior to this was that it was based on the previous election and what was raised then. So if it's going to be put all into the pot and distributed evenly, I'm okay with that. But I'm not okay with somebody having to write on my hard coattails, my hard work, and write on my coattails on the work that I did and say, okay, Val raised over $20,000, now we're going to give $20,000 to the next person who decides to run in this race when I did all that hard work. And I just feel that that was not fair. And like the testifier said, that, Kona got over $40,000 in one district, which was so off balance. And I was kind of angry with that because that took some time away from me because I had to go and try to raise money elsewhere. I didn't have that same opportunity. So if it becomes fair, I definitely would support public funding, but I didn't use public funding because $1,200 doesn't cut it. So if it's fair, I will support it. Thanks.
Mr. Iligan?
Thank you, Chair. I just had a question for Council Member Willie.
Go ahead.
What was the total amount that we spent in winning elections? For example, you said if we were to divide it, it would be 13,000 for each.
Yeah, I was looking at one of the committee reports, and that was what it would be the average amount spent in all districts by the winning candidates reduced by 10%. And in one committee report, it reports that the resulting figure is 13,000.
So
I haven't checked any of those.
Because I'm curious about their formula. Because thinking about each election, I've been looking through it, is that I know it just seems really low, 13,000. But I do want to mention, my opinion about the public funding, it's a great program because it gives an opportunity to someone like myself a chance to make those decisions for the future. And one of the things that I like about this program is that it is in the county. That I like how we had to actually get 200 signatures from registered voters in my district. And not only that, I couldn't accept cash. I could only accept $5 checks and $5 money orders. So not only did they have to write out their address and also their signature, they had to be willing to give me $5 in exchange. And because this program was so harsh and where we collected, let's say, 100, 30 of those gets rejected because somebody didn't put a 3 in their home address. And they were so, let's say, strict about it. I like that because it made me go out there to my community. And what this program really does, it makes you go to your community and talk to your constituents and go to that interview for each person. And it takes that, I want to say it takes that money concept out of the equation, but money will always be part of the equation, no matter what program we have available. Because let's say I have $13,000 to spend for my campaign, the other candidate can just outspend me, and this program, it's not going to help out. So we need a mechanism where we actually can make it fair across the board. But I did wanted to mention, if there is one change I would like to make on this program, would be what Councilmember Margaret Willey mentioned, was to make it fair in each district, make a flat amount. Because currently, I felt that right now this program favors the incumbent because of the fact that the incumbent is already, they don't have to spend as much. They've been out in the community and they have gathered those support. So for someone coming into District 1, they only had $1,000 because they only took $1,000 to win their election. So somebody new wouldn't have a standing chance. So having that fair amount would equalize this program. And I just wanted to also mention that next election will be the last election for this 3-year pilot program. So next election, whether you're in District 4, go out there and take advantage of this program. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lagon. We're going to have to take a brief recess for technical reasons. Recess. Resolution 84-13. If not, Ms. Ford, you needed to say something on this issue?
Oh, I do.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Yoshimoto.
I opened the door. Go
You
ahead.
did. Can't blame me this time. Just for the record, I've said this before, I want to make it on the record. I'm the person that wrote the original bill for this pilot project for this county. And at that time, I wrote it for $10,000 for each person, up to first three people in each district. When it went to, and by the way, 10,000 is not enough. We do understand that now. But it was fair, it was even, it was the same thing. And when it got to the state, which they have the right to change this, they do it their way, it turned into this albatross, this dead albatross, this stinking mess of unfairness. I don't understand it, but it did. And so I am supportive of Margaret's resolution. It needs to be fair, and I'm one of the, I think this was my first election using public funding, and I lucked out because I walked into a district where there was, you know, a lot of money, you know, and there were 3 of us using that same amount of money. So it's, you know, in some ways it's, I hate to say this, in some ways it doesn't matter how much money is there as long as all of you are on the same amount of money. But that didn't happen in a lot of the districts. It was really, really grossly unfair. And Margaret, you got the worst of it, I think, is, you know, but anyway. So I'm supportive of this bill. I'm supportive of public financing for elections. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. Ms. Eoff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I, too, was a recipient of public funding, and I found the program to be really helpful to get the candidates out. Myself and other of us that took the public funding, we had to get out there early. We had to go to our constituents. They knew we were running. We explained the program being one of equity and fairness, and I really hope that the program continues past the pilot period, and maybe this would be one way to make it more successful by leveling the playing field throughout all the districts, because it was unfairly balanced, and some candidates couldn't take advantage of it because there was too little money in the district pot. So I hope the legislature works this out, and that the people who become more aware of the program will check that box that puts some of their tax dollars, I think it's $3, towards the fund to keep it alive. So that's how the program will remain successful and be able to continue, is if the voters check the box and agree to put a few bucks into the fund to keep it alive. So thank you, Margaret, for bringing this out to our attention.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Yao. Mr. Kunoha.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm also supportive of the pilot funding program for the island of Hawaii, and hopefully it does stay on further past what has already been going on. But I mean, when this program came as an option for us, and after reviewing everything, I mean, I definitely thought it was unfair for the rest of the candidates, especially when one district received, you know, as was stated earlier, over $40,000 in public funding if you qualified and met all the requirements. And then you had the Hamakua district with $1,000. Anybody who could qualify would only get $1,000. So it just was it was really unfair, and that's why I didn't really push forward to get the public funding. I think in my district I had the second most amount of public funding, which was about $18,000. I think that was the second most money in that we could qualify for. But there's a few things that I wanted to say that hopefully it does stay on. I mean, maybe when you put down here, Margaret, that we could help them get a box that somebody could check off for a higher amount. If you wanted to check off a box that I want to contribute, you know, $8 or $10 to this program to keep it going. I thought that was really good. I also thought that if there wasn't enough money, I think there should be a type of alternative, not an alternative, but we should make it so that there is enough money in the general election for people running. I mean, because if you're up against somebody who maybe raised, you know, $40,000, $50,000, and you get nothing for the general election to even run your campaign, that's just almost impossible to run a campaign with nothing in the general election. So to kind of make it a little less in the primary, and maybe put some of that money inside for the general. But I hope the state does continue to fund this program, because it is really good for a lot of people who want to run in the campaigns, who want to be part of the election process. So thank you for bringing this up. I hope it passes today in the state, and I'll yield.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kunoha. Ms. Willie, did you want to respond before I go back to Ms. Ford, or you want to let Ms. Ford go?
If Ms. Ford would like to speak first,
okay, and then I'll let you wrap it up. Okay.
I need to clarify something. The $3 checkoff box or whatever it is, that doesn't come from your personal tax return. It's not coming from your income. You check off that box, it's $3 that comes out of the state's general fund to fund the program. So, but you are free to mail in a check to the Campaign Spending Commission and say you want this, and I'm sure they'll take care of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Okay, Ms. Willie.
Yes, let me just say that this is a 3-election period pilot project, and really the evaluation will go on after the next period. So some of what I put in went into those future considerations, and that right now they're just dealing with, this is so inequitable. I mean, I felt it was a way to kill the program. I mean, by doing it so inequitable, and get enough people in opposition. But it did work out. I mean, I got $273 for the general election. You know, I mean, it takes a lot of how to pull that off. But so I think it's important that the people in this district think about it and get ideas, and that really the overall evaluation will be done after this term. I also just want to say I really like the idea of having pilot projects on different islands and being able to try things out. There's also talk, and I think the bill failed, for state representatives, and they would get, I think there's other urging that they get at least $35,000, but that we're just sort of looking at it. And lastly, just to mention, I feel there was a lot of confidence in this program of our county council pilot project, because previously there were partial public fundings and the amount of checkoffs were going down. But once the County Council Hawaii County pilot project came in, in 2008, 190,000 plus was collected in checkoffs, and then in 2011 it was up to 223. So there was a lot of growing support based on what happened in our pilot project. So thank you, and hopefully it will pass. But again, to think about long term, it'll be after this next election that the real evaluation will take place as to what changes and how to best work it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Willie. Council members, can I say a few words at the end, if that's okay? Okay. I feel compelled to add to the discussion, just so some council members who may not have been following this issue in the past. Ms. Ford, this was, what, 3 terms ago that we...
Let's see, 2010, I think we did it in the 2006 to 8
Okay.
term. I think it was my first term, because then it was 10, 12, oops. I did this in the first term because it was, the pilot program was for 2010, 12, and 14.
Okay, so the council, I think we must have addressed this via resolution at least 2 or 3 times in the past.
Yeah.
And I think one time maybe 2 times we supported it, and one time we didn't, depending how the votes went. But the bottom line I want to get to is that, before the program was implemented, I did have an opportunity to talk to our state legislators, and in particular, Senator Brian Taniguchi. I think it was in his committee prior to the implementation of this program. We had basically pleaded with him to make sure that there's equalizing provisions. But I need the public to know that he refused, and that's why we're here today with this mess, is because the refusal, whether you call it stubbornness or just a difference of philosophy. But I feel compelled to say that because, for us to move forward, we need to understand how we got here. So how we got here is a legislature taking the approach that, well, this is a pilot program, so it's okay to make maybe these test situations or whatnot. What I'm trying to say is that, we need to keep on knocking on that door till we kick it down, because we got to get it right. And so finally, I think Ms. Willie, hopefully the legislature has seen the wisdom based upon the feedback that they're getting now. But the moral of the story that I'm trying to say is that they could have avoided all this had they actually listened to us. I think Ms. Ford is well aware of this too, because I personally tried to do this, and they refused. But that's okay. It's like crying over spilled milk. But then to move forward, we need to keep on this effort, because I think it does help to the process to getting good candidates forward, encourage people that money would not be a barrier to running for office. So, Ms. Willie, thank you. I support you. Okay, Mr. Clerk.
Wait.
I close the discussion. We're moving forward. Thank you.
Ms. Eoff.
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
Aye.
Mr. Iligan.
Aye.
Mr. Kanuha.
Aye.
Mr. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Onishi.
No.
Ms. Poindexter.
Aye.
Ms. Willie.
Aye.
Chair Yoshimoto.
Aye.
Chair Yoshimoto, you have 8 ayes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Resolution 84-13 is approved. Next item.